Come, walk down the winding path. Don't mind the spooks and monsters. They stay hidden within the trees. There are mysteries in this world that you need to know, and paranormal truths that need to be told. Come, step up into the caravan while we share tales of old, as well as new accounts about things you thought only existed in your nightmares.
Welcome inside the caravan. Thanks for stopping by. Jennifer, well, she's out on assignment this evening. Of course, things that are on her assignment list are picking up a loaf of bread and some more coffee. We need some here inside the caravan. Actually, she is out on an assignment and is researching some interesting factoids to bring back to the caravan in a future show. Tonight's episode, we are joined by Bob Smith. So a little background on Bob. I have known Bob for most of my adult life. We met back in 1978, and yes, that is a long time ago. However, with the bell-bottoms that we were wearing at the time, the two of us have experienced many strange things, both very enlightening and coming of age to extreme tragedies. However, Bob and I have always remained good friends, and we know that we can pick up the phone at any given point and pick up the conversation exactly where it left off. Bob and I went to high school together, and of course, some of our events in our life took place there, in which he will make reference to at a certain house that we used to hang out at quite often, and of course that was my first experience with the Ouija board. We won't get into too much about the Ouija board, but Bob is here tonight, and he's going to share a couple of the stories that was very profound to him that I was not witness to, but he did share with me and agreed to share with all of you here at the caravan. I would like to make a note that during this interview, there was a lot of interference with the phone call, which was not my fault nor Bob's fault. It was just an internet phone call connection error, and of course, really didn't notice that until after the recording was done. But you can muster through it. It's really not that bad. However, I would like to introduce all of you to Bob Smith. Bob, say hi to everybody.
Hello. How are you doing?
I'm well, thank you. I believe you were working either second or third shift at a data vault in Des Plaines, and I used to come and visit you, and you told me back then, and I think this was probably in the maybe early 1990s, probably. Do you remember about what years that was when you worked at that Des Plaines vault?
I worked in Des Plaines from 85 to 90.
Yeah, do you remember any of those shows? I mean, I know you used to listen to it, and you, the one that introduced me to Art Bell.
Listening to him around the time Hale Bop was around, he was talking about Hale Bop a lot.
Oh,
and
right. Wasn't that what cult was that was waiting for Hale Bop to come around
Heaven's
with the
Gate.
mothership, and then they all, yes, Heaven's Gate, that's what it was. Yeah, and then they all committed suicide. And
well, the night
okay, that's a whole opinion in itself.
Right. The night Heaven's Gate committed suicide. Remember I was telling you about the 3 huge, enormous lights that went over my house as I was watching.
Oh, that's
Hale
right.
Bop?
Yeah, tell me about that. That was crazy.
Oh, no, that scared me to the point where I had to go in my house and I went in the basement. I've never experienced anything so freaky in my life. It was,
share it with everybody what that was.
Yeah, well, I was out looking at Hale Bop, and it just happened to be the night that those the cult members committed suicide. And I'm watching Hale Bop, and all of a sudden, there was a very clear sky. There was no clouds, without stars. And I'm looking up at the sky, and all of a sudden, 3 large I want to say 3 large lights, but they weren't lights. It was kind of like if you take a spotlight and shine it in the sky, it looked like that. Yeah, and it was like 3 streaks that made a very loud noise as it went away. It was like a really low like that noise, and it was like 3 like consecutively. And at that point, I'm like, well, it's time to go in. I went in. It freaked me out.
Say it, blame you. Where was it? One right behind the other, or were they in a triangle formation?
No, it was one right behind the other. It's like they were chasing each other.
Yeah, that would be intimidating.
Yeah.
No, that would be intimidating. And you went down to the basement, huh?
Yeah, I went into the house. I'm like, I'm going in. I went to the basement, like, tried to explain to Annette, and we went back out there, and we hail Bob, it's still there and everything, but we couldn't see anything. But it did make WGN News, so I was not the Lone Ranger in seeing that one. A lot of people saw it.
Really? Wow.
Yeah.
So it was on TV news?
Yeah, it was on the TV news. It was Unexplainable Lights.
Wow. And they were white, huh?
No, red.
Oh, really?
Red glow.
Okay.
Yeah, it was a red glow. It wasn't white. It was red. A red glow.
Oh. Yeah, see, that's almost more intimidating to the fact when you see something like that. Because what conventional aircraft is all a red glow? You know what I'm saying? White or green, yeah, I could maybe see that, but all red. No, that doesn't make sense. It was a red
glow, and it was like huge. It was bigger than any ship could ever be. It was like filled the sky. It wasn't like little lights. It was like a big red, huge cloud formation that went by real fast. Oh yeah, no, it was scary and intimidating.
It is scary and intimidating. I can't say I blame you.
That, to the point where I honestly thought it was extraterrestrial, and I should just go inside now.
Yeah, I could imagine. And that was the same night of the Heaven's Gate suicide?
Correct. Which they were waiting for spaceships to pick them up, which is kind of a bizarre twist to the whole damn thing,
The mothership is over here in Prospect Heights. That was at Prospect Heights, wasn't it?
No, that was in Lake Zurich.
Oh, it was in Lake Zurich. Wow.
Yeah. That was,
okay.
That was
I thought you saw that in Prospect Heights. Okay. Yeah, Lake Zurich, which is, again, that's Northern Illinois for those of you that want to take a look at a map and see where Lake Zurich is at. Yeah, I remember that location where you lived at that time because they used to come and visit you there as well.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I remember you shared that story with me once, but that was when you shared that story, and it was just kind of out of sight, out of mind to see those red lights.
And I actually didn't go into as much detail then as I did just now.
Right. Yeah, I don't remember. I didn't remember the fact that you said that WGN had shared it. That's kind of crazy in itself on TV to talk about it. So clearly there was a lot of witnesses to it. Was it traveling from east to west, or you don't remember?
Oh, no, I definitely remember. It was definitely going east to west. Yeah, it was coming from the lake, 22, taking the path of Route 22. Going
okay,
east to west.
So it would roughly be from 22 going due east. That would be just a little bit further north. What's that town that we used to go to all the time and sit on the park bench where the movie Ferris Bueller's Day Off was filmed at?
Glencoe. It came from the lake toward
the Glencoe area off the lakefront, right? And heading west. That's really crazy.
And it was definitely, and there was no clouds. That was the crazy part about it. What was making that big glow in the sky, big circular glow?
Right. So at that time, you felt that it was extraterrestrial. You didn't think, okay, this is some crazy military project going on or something. You felt that energy that it's not from here?
Bouncing off the atmosphere is what it kind of felt like.
Wow. This gentleman that I work with, he would tell me, because he lived east of where I'm at right now, so he was closer to the city of Chicago, but he would tell me stories at times too when he would be laying in the bed of his pickup truck, and in the summertime he'd be laying and he'd see these red lights moving around in the sky, and I'm like, yeah, well, that's probably unidentified flying object Of course, now a lot of people want to change the name to unidentified aerial phenomena. It's still the same thing, however you define it. And then it was but a couple years later, and I, at that time, was living in South Elgin, Illinois, and my wife at the time and myself were sitting on the front porch, and way off in the distance, I saw two red lights just sitting next to each other, and I pointed it out to her. I'm like, wow, do you see that out there? And at first, you kind of think it's terrestrial. Maybe it's just a hot air balloon at night or something, which is kind of weird. People really wouldn't do that. But then these things started moving in a way that an aircraft is not going to be. And the two of us sat at each other going, wow, that was crazy. And I, of course, you get all shaky and your palms are sweaty. And it's like, wow, that was really a trip. But it's scary because you don't know, is this the moment when the invasion starts? Because Hollywood has just really filled our brains with, well, if they come here, they have a bad in movies or like that. But, enough of them were out there in the culture that, if the aliens are coming here, it's because they want an invasion. And then it wasn't until I moved to St. Charles when we saw a series of them moving in the same way. But see, these lights weren't as big as what you were describing. I would say these things were no bigger than, I don't know, maybe 8 feet in diameter. But they're not flares. The thing is, with a flare, they kind of flicker and they give off smoke. These were not that intense of a bright light. This was a little bit duller of a glow, but they were fixed. There was no distortion in the light at all. It was a continual light, and the way they moved, one right after another, shooting straight up into the air until they were out of sight, and then 6 of them shot off straight east towards Chicago. And the guy that I never met before, he was the same thing with me. He got panicked. He called the police. Of course, the police department showed up and said, are you the one that called for UFO sighting? Yeah, he was. He was a little bit scared. And it was a female police officer. And she's like, I'm really upset that I missed it because I've heard of stuff like this. And I've never witnessed it. I'm like, well, this was, a pretty big event. So, yeah, for what you saw and the size of it, that's crazy. And all 3 of them are the same size?
Yeah, and they were all following each other.
That's crazy. Right. Well, do you think they would be chasing each other or just moving from one location to another at a high rate of speed? You know what I'm saying? They had a mission.
Maybe they were taking dead souls with them. Strangely enough, the woman who played Lieutenant Uhura on Star Trek, her brother was one of those Heaven Gate people that killed themselves.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah.
I was unaware of that.
That's another weird tie-in there.
Right? Yeah, I mean, there's so many coincidences that go on a daily basis. Look, Art Bell passed away on 13th. I mean, you can't write that stuff. Yeah, you can't write that, though. I mean, of all celebrities to have passed on Friday the 13th, and it happened to be Art Bell. It's just
funny.
I understand you can make coincidences, a little bit more prominent than what they may actually be. And I didn't even think of it at the time. Jenny's the one that pointed it out to me to go, oh my gosh, he passed away on Friday the 13th. I'm like, wow, yeah, I guess that is kind of weird.
Great subjects. I mean, I used to like his exorcism shows. Those were great shows. Mel's Hole. Do you remember Mel's Hole?
I do remember Mel's Hole. Yes, right.
Yeah.
Although I really, up to this point, I really wish that entire episode had a different name, because I've had conversations with people that did not understand what it was about, and I was in the middle of a conversation going, well, did you ever little Mel's Hole? And of course, their brain goes off someplace else, kind of discussing. I'm like, no. It had nothing to do with that. But yeah, and the screaming voices from the hole in Siberia that they were in, and man, there's just so many remarkable shows. And of course, how much of it is actually reality or not? That was the beauty of Coast to Coast AM when Art Bell was doing it, because everything was unfiltered. He did all the call screeners himself. I don't know if you remember the show when the guy called in and said theoretically, he was from Area 51 and, he's being watched and then the phone call goes dead after a few minutes of him talking to Art. It's just
wasn't that the
kind
guy
of
who was flying
hair-raising
a
stuff.
plane? He was flying a plane over Area 51, wasn't he? And they thought the plane crashed or something. Wasn't that the one?
I don't remember that. I don't think he was in an aircraft, at least not the show in which I'm speaking of. I could be missing something altogether as far as flying over Area 51. I think it was only like a 10-minute phone call at best, but you could tell the guy was panicking on the phone and he was out of breath and he was scared and he was terrified and he couldn't get his words out clearly enough because he said he was limited on his, phone call time but he was giving warning as to things that were going on at Area 51, and then the call just kind of goes dead after that. Now, people speculate, hey, it's a hoax. Well, okay, it could be, but it's kind of funny how if something actually did happen and you have those people saying, no, it's a hoax, maybe it wasn't. Maybe that actually happened, and Art didn't know. You can't blame him because he had no idea. All he did was take the phone call and he was trying to coach the guy through and asking him questions, which I would ask those same questions too. So, yeah, it was pretty crazy. And Jennifer, she doesn't live too far from where the Mel's Hole incident took place. She said at one time she was going to go and try to figure out where it was at. But I know that it's private property, theoretically, and I don't know. I know there's been a lot of people that have gone out there to try to figure out what's going on with the whole Mel's Hole thing, and if it is it an endless pit? I don't know. Kind of crazy though to think about.
Was that the same hole they took the microphone and put the microphone down? You were hearing like weird.
No, that was the Siberian. Yeah, no, that was a Siberian hole that the Russians were drilling in the ice, or not in the ice, but in Antarctica, I believe. And they were drilling, and they were doing these mega depth drill, and they dropped the microphone down there, and they were picking up all these kind of demonic sounds. Yeah, that was crazy. No, Mel's Hole, the gentleman said he didn't have enough line, and they've been trying and trying, or he was trying and trying, lowering a line down there with a light, with weights, and they never hit bottom. I was like,
yeah, the light
okay,
would disappear.
Yeah, it went that far down that the light would disappear. You wouldn't be able to pick it up anymore. Now that's got to be pretty far down. I mean, considering the human eye can pick up a flickering candle in darkness, but the human eye has the ability to pick up a candle at almost a mile away. It's that sensitive. So you're telling me that hole in the ground was deeper than a mile. That's kind of crazy in itself. And I don't know whatever became of that, if that was figured out to be a hoax or if it's been covered up. Literally, the hole was covered up and, not let anybody back on the property. I know he said that the property was purchased and it is private property, so really nobody's allowed on that land. But Jennifer doesn't live too far from there, and she did bring up to me at one point that she wanted to do a road trip out that way and see if she couldn't narrow down the area in which the Mel's Hole is actually located at and try to get some more information out of it. I just find that whole thing fascinating. I mean, the man had so many crazy shows that would keep you up late at night. There was a caller that called in one night to Art, and he lived not too far from where the two of us were. And he's like, yeah, I've had these 3 scary shadow beings standing at the end of my bed. And he was terrified. And listening to him tell his story to Art's terrified too. And I'm terrified listening to it going, okay, now this is way too close to my house. Why are people so close to me calling in with these horrifying, scary stories of these shadow beings? But then I did share with Sean Forker at the show that I do with him over at the Existence of Strange Things at Radio Memphis, or on Radio Memphis rather, about the shadow people you would see in the data vault when I worked with you there. I mean, see him walking across the back wall, and it's like, wow, did you see that? And you played it off. You played it off like, yeah, it's no big deal. And I'm like, but it vindicated me because I saw it. And then for the two of us to see it, it was like, yes, okay, that was great. I remember seeing 3 of them, and it was times I saw one right behind the other, going on the back wall of the whatever that one room was that you'd scan everything in before it went into the library, whatever that VTMS room.
Yeah,
that's where I would see him at. Yeah, that's where I would see him at, along the back wall there.
Yeah, and then but you'd be working, all of a sudden you'd see something move, and then you'd turn your head and there'd be nothing there.
Yeah, but it happened all the time there.
Oh yeah,
it happened to me a number of times there. Yeah, that was crazy. Maybe it was one of those shadow people that broke into that. Wasn't it broke into an office or something? I don't remember what.
I think that was
what
our
was that all
manager who needed money. Rob, remember Rob?
Yeah, no last names, but yeah. Now I remember. Yeah, there was. Oh, that's what it was. Okay, so for everybody listening, this is a secure data vault. A lot of sensitive information. Somebody got into the building and broke into an office and stole money, but I don't remember where the money came from. What was that in a safe or something? I don't remember. But yeah, I kind of thought it was funny. I think there were windows broken out. I'm like, oh, this is a secure data vault. Sure it is. Security cameras going, but there happened to be no tapes in the machine recording off the security cameras. Yeah, that I remember.
Yeah, it was quite a weird situation. However, now where I work now, I work in a hospital, and I only see shadow people all the time. I have forcibly seen stuff move and push me like out of the way, especially on this one
elaborate.
Floor. What I do for a living in the hospital is I go to room collecting the dirty laundry, and I throw it down the chute. Anyway, I have this cart. I go down room to room, and there's this one specific room I go to. Every time I put my cart in front of this room, I go in there and grab the laundry. The cart moves away from in front of the door. Like, it doesn't want that cart to be in front of the door ever. And it always moves it down. So I have to walk down to get it. And then when I try moving it back, I feel a pressure moving the cart. Yes. It freaks me out.
Really?
Yeah.
And this happens all the time?
Yeah. I mean, I can make it happen just by putting the cart there, and I'll step away, and all of a sudden, a few seconds later, you see the cart move by itself.
Have you ever thought of just recording it with your phone in your pocket or something? Dude, that would be scary.
They have funny rules there. I mean, if I catch a patient or something,
No, I understand that. Of course, the whole idea isn't to get you into any kind of job jeopardy whatsoever, because the job is more important. But yeah, if you're feeling a force pushing against a cart when you're trying to move it, what? Wow, I wonder what would lead something. Why would it do something like that? And doesn't want you in there? Or?
They don't want the door blocked for some reason. They don't want anything in front of the door.
Isn't that crazy? And that's only one room that it happens at?
It's one room, yeah. But I feel another presence on a room where I know the woman died. I cleaned up her stuff after she died on giving birth.
Oh, no.
And, this woman came in. She was 6 months pregnant, fell, and came in for observation since she fell off a ladder. Well, she must have gotten a blood clot or something that went to her heart, and she had a heart attack and died.
Oh, a tragedy.
So they did an emergency cesarean on this woman and took the baby, and the baby died too.
Oh.
Didn't make it. But they left that body in there for 2 days because they didn't want to move it for some legal reasons. The family didn't want to move it. So It was a
Maybe
pretty
because of
eerie
autopsy, or had to schedule an autopsy or something to that effect, maybe?
No, it sure felt like they were, there was some deal going on there. But,
Okay. Trying to blame the hospital for foul play of some sort, maybe, and they couldn't move evidence around, maybe.
Correct.
Either way, okay, so that's a tragedy in itself to have a story like that or an event like that happen. That's a horrible tragedy, but there's things going on in that room too.
Oh yeah, I always see shadow people in that room walking by me.
Really?
Oh yeah.
So what's your take? Do you think shadow people are, a ghost, or do you think it's just an entirely different entity altogether? Or do you think it may just be yeah?
Yeah, I think it's a spirit trying to breach both worlds.
It just hasn't figured out how to move on, maybe?
Yeah.
I ask because there is no right. There is no right or wrong answer. Look, nobody knows. Nobody knows, and well, there are people that proclaim that they know, but nobody really knows. They don't have a shadow person living, in their garage so that they can, analyze what it is. But for so many shadow people stories, including the ones that I've seen now, like I said, I've seen the shadow people at the data vault where you and I work. That is the most prominent place where I have seen them. I have caught things out of the corner of my eye where I thought, wow, I just saw something walk by. That happens, from time to time. It's not frequent. But the ones that I saw at the data vault, I remember twice seeing at least 3 of them, and I wasn't able to look at them directly on, but you could see 3 individuals, one right behind the other, walking across that back wall of the vault. And that happened twice. And I remember the one in the back was a little bit shorter than the first 2. But I felt no evil presence by them being there. And I think you told me that used to be like a swampland before that entire industrial park got built into that swampland there, because it still was kind of swampy behind that data vault there, if I remember correctly. And yeah, so who's to say it wasn't Native American land at one point, and maybe they're just still meandering about aimlessly. But then I hear, the shadow figures like the Hat Man, this super black, dark void that is a presence in a room or something, just staring, or you get the feeling that it's staring at you, but yet it's such a black void, it's blacker than black, and it's a outline humanoid figure just standing there. And so many people see this when they're at their most restful state, which is why you're sleeping, and you'll wake up and you'll see this thing standing at the foot of your bed. To me, that's different. I don't think that will be a spirit moving around, because of like the instance in which you have at the hospital, that maybe they just don't understand how to move on because they didn't want to leave this plane of reality yet. So they still meander about the hospital. I don't know. I think there's a couple different things going on there as far as shadow people go. So I don't want to throw them all into the same container, into the same box, let's say, and say all shadow people are the same thing. I don't think so. But you felt like you've been pushed at the hospital by them?
Not pushed, but held back, like stopping me from going forward. I felt a weight as I'm pushing my cart for just no reason.
Isn't that crazy? See, that's so crazy to me, that to have a physical presence enough to create a physical force against you, you would think they would be able to, well, and maybe they do, I don't know, be able to pick up physical objects and move them around. I mean, I had experiences like that at the farmhouse, but we never saw it actually happen. We always saw the after effect of things being moved around, but we never actually saw them moved around. But to have enough physical presence to be able to slow you down, that's crazy.
Don't you remember weird shit happening at Tom's house? Weird stuff like that.
Well, I remember, we did a Ouija board there once, and then I remember a little experimentation in the LSD community, that I remember. And you know what? To be completely honest, that was the only time I ever had a acid trip, so to speak, and it was chemical LSD. But I'm glad I had that experience, because now I understand the whole concept behind the LSD and what it was and power of suggestion. That was crazy because you were there with me when that happened or when we did that together. But yeah, I don't remember so many things that went on at that house. There was some crazy thing in there.
Definitely crazy.
I remember the Ouija board night. That I do. What other events happened? Refresh my memory.
You put something somewhere and all of a sudden it'd be across the room. That type of stuff. There was weird stuff happening like that.
Right.
Yeah.
Anything else happen at the hospital?
No, no, not really. Just that's my biggest story right there. I feel a lot of good presence there. I mean, I feel like sometimes I'm there to help people that are sad or something. I always try giving them that glass is half full type thing, try to make
that's a good way of doing
better.
That.
Yeah, that way, for instance, this one girl had toe amputated, and I'm not giving away HIPAA because I'm not using names. So.
Right.
Right. Anyway, she's all upset and she's crying, and I'm like, well, what's wrong? I mean, she's like, well, they just took my toe, and it's very hard. I have nobody to talk to about it. I'm like, well, you know what? It's just a toe. I said, be glad it wasn't a foot.
Right.
And at the end of the conversation, she stopped crying. She actually was smiling. That made me feel better. I was able to help her. I like pushing my energy to the positive when I'm there, and not so much the negative. But once in a while, it's there.
Oh, I'm sure it is. And if that's something that you get a fulfillment out of, then you're you're doing the right thing. And why you're at that hospital, I'm sure that there's a directive for you to be there. So maybe that's your reason for being there.
You know what's weird? My mother, before she had passed, she died in 91. She went to a psychic who said, and I looked down one day and I realized, and I remember her saying this to me. A psychic said about me to her that I would be working in the medical industry with a white coat on. And sure enough, I walk around with a white coat on in the medical industry all those years later. That's pretty weird. Because back then,
well, it all depends on. Right. I mean, that all depends on what you define as weird. There's been some people that I have known in my life in the psychic realm and that ability that are able to kind of explain what it is that they see, because they don't see it in clear pictures like a lot of skeptics think. It's not in clear pictures, but it was defined by me, by Joe Who, that things are in different levels. And he can see where and what level you are at, so what experience you may have, most likely are going to have, and that's how he's able to perceive. And I kind of understand exactly what he's talking about until you actually see it yourself, if you have that ability. So, a lot has to be said for, the psychics, because there's a lot of them out there that are just turning a dollar just to turn a dollar and say, well, Bob, I see in your future that you're going to be eating something in your kitchen. Then you're going to get into your car at some point and you're going to be driving to a hospital and you're going to spend a day there. Okay, yeah, I get that. And they are turning a dollar, and you're going to meet somebody really interesting at that hospital one day. Oh, really? Of course I am, But there are those that do give information that is like, how did you know that? There would be no way for anybody to know that.
Right. It was weird that somebody would make a prediction like that, and mind you, 20 years in the future. That's weird.
Oh, right. Right. Okay, I just see a feed that's come across that Arlie Ermy has passed away at the age of 74.
Who is he?
Arlie Ermy?
Yeah.
Full Metal Jacket.
Oh, Sergeant. Yeah.
Yes, yes, and he was a good friend of Ro Khan in Chicago. They used to do their Christmas Toys for Tots fundraisers and so on. And so yeah, he was a good friend uh, of Ro Khan. Wow, that's yeah. He's been in so many movies playing either serious, really grunty, and he was a Marine, so Semper Fi. Um, Playing that Marine hardcore, or just playing a complete opposite. Um, Saving Silverman, was that the name of the show where he played the football coach? And it turned out that he was gay, and yeah, that was okay. It was pretty amusing, but yeah, Arlie Ermy has passed away at the age of 74. Now, I have not looked into, is this a celebrity hoax thing or not? I don't know, but hopefully it's not true. I just see that it's just came up on my news feed here. We'll look into that. Anyway, so yeah, no, thanks for sharing those stories. You got any other cool stories, or did you wrap that one up between gigantic red UFOs over Lake Zurich during the Hale-Bopp experience, and then having all these entities at the hospital that show a little bit of resistance or activity? I don't know. I find it fascinating altogether. I do. Thanks for sharing. Greatly appreciate it.
Watch your step, lest you move on death. It lay there cold underneath your last breath. Hold your tongue, still I've gone. The beast that follows is close, but we'll move on. Snake eyes always on my tail. Snake eyes always up ahead. Oh, snake eyes hidden in the dark. Snake eyes better catch a spark. Of peril and impending doom. Will you fight or run and hide? When the storm winds blow, will you have the strength to turn the tide? Snake eyes always on my tail. Snake eyes up ahead. Oh, snake eyes hidden in the dark. Snake eyes better catch a spark. Snake eyes always on my tail. Snake eyes always up ahead. Oh, snake eyes hidden in the dark. Snake eyes better catch a spark.